Good morning. I'm sure many of you have questions about the industry. I've been in Hollywood for 16 and a half years.
On the backside, he talks about children being taken off the streets of America. In addition to credit card fraud, the investigation is said to be focused on the illegal interstate prostitution, abduction, and use of minors for sexual conversion.
Tonight is the vernal equinox you mentioned.
Yeah.
What would your former acquaintances in the Illuminati be doing tonight on the vernal equinox?
With Prince, Whitney Houston, and Michael, that trilogy are, I think that's pretty accurate, and I don't believe they left this world the way that the media or the powers that be per se would like us to believe.
You kind of have an interesting background. You're just not somebody who says, well, I watched Wizard of Oz and I saw the person hanging in the tree. You've actually done this sort of stuff. I mean, you're in the industry. Give everybody kind of a snapshot of who you are and where you're from.
I've had experience in the entertainment industry. I've worked alongside celebrities, and Hollywood's main goal is to get people to sin, however which way.
If you're like me before I got in the business, you probably look at screen credits and scratch your head and go, what is a best boy? Or a grip, you know? So I can answer those questions for you afterward if you like.
A major paper in Washington, D.C. is running headlines about children who are kidnapped off the streets of America, being prostituted, even into the White House.
This is a very important holiday to them. It is what many on the calendar consider one of the top 6 holidays. They are celebrating the harvest.
Prince didn't look very well in his last days, which really leads one to believe possibly that he was helped over eventually to die.
Ultimately worked for some pretty big names. I did Catch Me If You Can for Steven Spielberg. Worked on the first Pirates of the Caribbean for Bruckheimer, and I've worked for Joel Silver.
That's their main objective, getting people to sin. It's not to entertain you, that's not their number one goal. Their number one goal is to get you to sin. Their second goal is to distract you from reality and potentially waking up and serving the Most High.
And you can clearly see the heavy metal particulates being sprayed above the heads of the children in this. Hollywood works not only to condition our adult minds, but also the minds of our children to accept things that heretofore we'd never seen before.
America is censored. America is under censorship.
So this is a harvest festival, and in that festival they will commit sex acts, and a human will be sacrificed.
I worked on Chuck. I did season 2, and we were over at Warner Brothers, and that was the same crew that did Alias, Mission Impossible 3, Daredevil, and Rush Hour 2, I believe.
So they will try anything to get you to lust, to covet, to be jealous, insecure, envious, greedy, obsessive, addicted, materialistic, gossip, because that's what Hollywood is all about when you really think about it, when you're really honest.
I've worked for Disney a lot. In fact, Disney's one of the studios that I've worked for the most. Probably Disney and Warner Brothers are where I've hung my hat the most number of seasons of network television or feature films over the past 16 years. And it troubles me to say this, because as a kid I loved Disneyland and Disney.
Now, is this just one human in one location, or is this taking
Not at
place?
all. No, this will be done all over the world by those who are involved.
I was serving this global banker elitist agenda by lending my craft and creativity to their conditioning.
It's profane, it's homoerotic, it's do what thou wilt, which is Aleister Crowley's motto. And he is the founder of the Satanist Church, so this is what they're telling you to do in Hollywood.
You know, I grew up at a time where it was all the classics, Pinocchio, Cinderella, etc. but Disney is very complicit, and I'll demonstrate some of that today in indoctrinating our children and conditioning their minds to what I would call a luciferian agenda.
So are we talking about hundreds of rituals in which humans are sacrificed?
I would say tens of thousands, if not more.
I realized, Josh, that not only was I complicit in this, but that I was, at very minimum, a competent saucier in Satan's kitchen.
Around 12 years old is the best age to scout future high fashion models. You know, they like to take you from about 12 years old and groom you. There's a lot of mind control in that game as well, so they probably groom you and God knows what else.
This film is a screenshot from the 1970 production called Railway Children. And you see we got the couple of kids sitting there on a split rail fence, again, produced in 1970, distributed in early 1971.
Where do they get these sacrificial victims?
A lot of them are specifically conceived for the very purpose of later being sacrificed.
Where the Luciferian agenda in Hollywood began is no less than the creation of Hollywood itself. And to understand that, you have to go back to New York City around the turn of the century.
I didn't realize that even in the modeling world, you've got to sell out in a certain way to Satan to become very successful, regardless of how attractive you are, regardless of how good you are, your craft. If you're not selling out, even in something like I can do modeling, you're not going to go very far.
In 2005, the GAO, the Government Accounting Office, listed a line item in that year's budget that was $996 million for aircraft services.
Women that are called breeders who there's actually no record of them being alive. This is a perpetual thing that they do. And all these women do is get pregnant so that they can have children that will be sacrificed.
Not all of them, but many were very well studied in Kabbalah, in Jewish mysticism, and in numerology. And they knew more than almost anyone in our modern age about the occult and the ancient rituals and rites therein.
So Railway Children was edited and digitized in 2006 for DVD distribution as well as cable viewing. Notice a difference?
The 10th century, the most practiced occult in what would become the United Kingdom was that of Druidism.
And a lot of the missing children we hear about are also victims in these rituals. And it's not always children, it depends on what particular ritual they're doing. They sacrifice adult men at the Friday before Easter.